Am I the only one that didn't know the true horror of Holloway Manor? Midnight. Holloway Manor stood silhouetted against the moon, a twisted silhouette of decay. The wind howled through the crumbling walls, carrying whispers of forgotten tragedies. The townsfolk spoke of a curse. Holloway Manor, they said, craved souls. Its windows, like vacant eyes, reflected nothing but the moon's cold light. The iron gate, rusted and overgrown, creaked open like a death rattle. The air grew cold, heavy with the weight of untold secrets. Holloway Manor awaited its next victim. Clara scoffed at the local superstitions. Young, headstrong, she saw only a challenge in the manor's grim facade. The stories were just that, stories, fairy tales to frighten children. She wouldn't be deterred. Armed with a flashlight and a skeptical smirk, she approached the house. The tales of vanished souls held no power over her. Clara believed in logic, in reason. The supernatural was for the gullible. Tonight she would prove that fear and superstition had no place in her world. The front door yielded with a groan. Dust swirled in the stale air, thick with the scent of decay. Moonlight sliced through broken windows, illuminating the dilapidated grandeur within. Clara stepped inside. The door slammed shut. Terror, swift and cold, gripped her. She spun around, heart pounding. Silence. The only sound was her own ragged breathing. Clara shook off the fear. It was just the wind, she told herself, just an old house settling. Clara crossed the threshold, stepping into the unknown. The immediate consequence was a chilling realization. She was not alone. The flashlight beam danced across cobweb-draped portraits, their eyes seeming to follow her every move. The air grew colder, the silence deeper, broken only by the sound of her own footsteps echoing on the wooden floor. Then the whispers began, soft at first, like the rustling of silk, then louder, words forming, indistinct, menacing. Clara's breath caught in her throat as the whispers became clearer, speaking of forgotten secrets and lost souls. She quickened her pace, drawn deeper into the labyrinthine house, her mind racing with the haunting words. The whispers grew louder, swirling around her, voices from beyond the grave, each word chipping away at her sanity. A grand mirror stood at the end of a long hallway. Its frame was intricately carved, depicting scenes of myth and legend, almost as if it held stories of its own. The hallway was dimly lit, with shadows dancing on the walls, creating an atmosphere of foreboding. The mirror seemed to beckon, drawing anyone who dared to look into its depths. Its surface was clouded, reflecting only fragmented images. The glass was old, with a patina of age that obscured clear reflections. It was as if the mirror had witnessed countless events, absorbing the essence of each one. The fragmented images it reflected were like pieces of a puzzle, hinting at a larger, more sinister picture. Clara approached, drawn by a strange compulsion. She had heard tales of the mirror, stories whispered in hushed tones about its dark past. Yet she couldn't resist its pull. Each step she took echoed in the hallway, amplifying the sense of isolation and dread. Her heart pounded in her chest, but she pressed on, unable to turn away. As she peered into the depths of the glass, a figure coalesced behind her. It started as a mere shadow, slowly taking form. Clara's breath caught in her throat as the figure became more distinct. She could see its outline, tall and menacing, standing just behind her. The air grew colder, and a sense of dread washed over her. Tall, skeletal, with eyes that burned like hot coals. The figure's gaze was intense, piercing through the dim light. Its skeletal frame was draped in tattered robes, and its presence exuded an ancient malevolence. Clara felt as if those burning eyes were looking into her very soul, uncovering her deepest fears and secrets. It was neither man nor beast, but something ancient, something evil. Clara whirled around. The figure was gone. She was left standing alone in the hallway, her heart racing. The silence was deafening, broken only by her ragged breaths. She turned back to the mirror, hoping to see something, anything that would explain what she had just witnessed. Only the cold, empty mirror remained. Its surface was as clouded as before, showing no sign of a figure. Clara's reflection stared back at her, wide-eyed and pale. She reached out to touch the glass, half expecting it to be cold as ice, but it was warm, almost pulsing with a life of its own. She pulled her hand back, unnerved. But the whispers continued, now laced with a chilling laughter. The sound seemed to come from all around her, echoing off the walls. It was as if the mirror itself was mocking her, enjoying her fear. Clara backed away slowly, her mind racing with questions. What was the figure? Why had it appeared to her? And most importantly, what did it want? The hallway seemed to stretch on forever as she retreated, the laughter growing fainter but never truly disappearing. She knew she had to leave, but the mirror's pull was still there, a dark promise of secrets yet to be uncovered. Clara remembered the old tome she had found in the attic, filled with cryptic writings and mysterious symbols. The book had mentioned a mirror that served as a gateway, a portal to another realm. Could this be the same mirror? The figure she saw might be a guardian or a prisoner of that otherworldly domain, bound to the mirror by some ancient curse. She had read about rituals and incantations that could summon or banish entities trapped within such mirrors. The figure's appearance was not a mere coincidence. It was a sign, a message from the other side. Clara realized that the mirror held the key to unlocking a dark secret, one that had been hidden for centuries. Determined to uncover the truth, Clara decided she would return to the mirror, armed with the knowledge from the ancient tome. She needed to understand the figure's significance and its connection to the mirror. The fear that had once paralyzed her was now replaced with a burning curiosity and a resolve to uncover the secrets that lay hidden within the glass. The hallway seemed even darker as she made her way back, the sense of foreboding growing with each step. The whispers and laughter had ceased, replaced by an oppressive silence. Clara knew that whatever awaited her in the mirror, it would change her life forever. The figure in the mirror was not just a ghostly apparition. It was a harbinger of the dark truths that lay ahead. Panic surged through Clara. She ran, stumbling through the darkened corridors, the whispers chasing her relentlessly. They seemed to emanate from the walls themselves, the house alive with some malevolent entity. She had to escape or she would be consumed. The figure reappeared, blocking her path, its presence suffocating. Its eyes burned with an unholy light, promising doom. Clara dodged, her heart pounding against her ribs, every beat a countdown to her demise. She had to get out, had to reach the front door, or be trapped forever. But the house seemed to shift around her, its layout constantly changing, as if it were a living labyrinth designed to ensnare her. Clara finally burst through the front door, gasping for air. The moon hung low in the sky, casting long, eerie shadows. She didn't dare look back, knowing the dangers that lurked behind. Not until she was safe, far away from Holloway Manor and its horrors. As she fled into the night, the whispers faded, replaced by the pounding of her own blood in her ears. But the terror lingered, a cold knot in her stomach. Clara had been wrong. The legends were true. Holloway Manor was indeed cursed, and the dangers she encountered were just the beginning. Back in the supposed safety of her own home, Clara tried to forget the horrors of Holloway Manor. She had returned to her familiar surroundings, hoping that the comfort of her own bed and the warmth of her home would erase the chilling memories. But every creak of the floorboards, every whisper of the wind outside her window seemed to echo the terror she had experienced. The experience had changed her. Clara was no longer the carefree woman she once was. The shadows in her home seemed darker, the nights longer and more oppressive. She found herself constantly looking over her shoulder, expecting to see the ghostly figures that had tormented her in the manor. The whispers haunted her dreams, turning peaceful nights into a battleground of fear and anxiety. She would wake up in a cold sweat, her heart racing, the echoes of those sinister voices still ringing in her ears. Sleep, once a refuge, had become a source of dread. The figure in the mirror was a recurring nightmare. Every time she glanced at her reflection, she half expected to see the ghostly apparition staring back at her, its hollow eyes filled with malice. The mirror had become a portal to her fears, a constant reminder of the evil she had encountered. She was no longer the skeptic she once was. Clara had always prided herself on her rationality, her ability to explain away the supernatural. But now she couldn't deny what she had seen, what she had felt. The experience had shattered her beliefs, leaving her vulnerable and afraid. The chill of the manor clung to her, a cold that seemed to seep into her very bones. No matter how many layers she wore, she couldn't shake the feeling of icy fingers trailing down her spine. It was as if the manor had left a part of itself with her, a lingering presence that refused to let go. A constant reminder of the evil that lurked within those crumbling walls. The image of the manor, with its decaying facade and oppressive atmosphere, was burned into her memory. She could still see the shadows moving in the corners, hear the faint whispers that had filled the air. The manor was a place of darkness, and it had left its mark on her. She had escaped with her life, but at what cost? Clara had managed to flee the manor, but the experience had left her scarred. She was constantly on edge, her nerves frayed, her mind filled with the horrors she had witnessed. The price of her survival was a lifetime of fear and uncertainty. The experience had left an indelible mark, a scar that would never fully heal. Clara's eyes, once filled with light and curiosity, now held a haunted look. The shadows of her past were etched into her expression, a testament to the terror she had endured, a terror that would forever haunt her. No matter how far she ran, no matter how much time passed, the memories of Holloway Manor would always be with her. The fear, the dread, the sense of impending doom, they were now a part of her, woven into the fabric of her being. Clara had survived, but she would never be the same. Meanwhile, back at Holloway Manor, the wind continued to howl through the broken windows. The night was thick with an unsettling silence, broken only by the occasional creak of the old wooden beams. The manor stood as a dark sentinel, its presence a blight on the landscape, a reminder of the countless horrors that had unfolded within its walls. The whispers echoed through the empty halls, a chorus of lost souls. Each whisper carried a story of despair, of lives cut short, of dreams turned to nightmares. The air was thick with the weight of their sorrow, a palpable presence that seemed to cling to the very walls of the manor. The figure in the mirror faded back into its depths, its eyes glowing with a sinister light. It was as if the mirror itself was a portal to another realm, a place where the souls of the damned were trapped for eternity. The sinister eyes seemed to follow you, watching, waiting for the moment to strike. Holloway Manor had claimed countless victims, their life force absorbed into its malevolent essence. Each soul that was taken added to the manor's power, making it an even more formidable force of darkness. The walls seemed to pulse with a dark energy, a testament to the many lives that had been consumed by the house. Clara's escape was a minor setback. The manor had let her go, but it was not done with her. It was never done with anyone. The house had a way of drawing people back, of making them feel as though they could never truly escape its grasp. Clara would feel its pull, the insidious whisper in her mind, calling her back to the darkness. The house remained hungry, waiting for the next unsuspecting soul to cross its threshold. The cycle would continue. It was a hunger that could never be sated, a need that drove the house to commit unspeakable acts. The manor was a predator, and the world outside was its hunting ground. The hunger would never be satisfied. It was an eternal, insatiable craving that drove the manor to consume all who dared to enter. The house was alive, a malevolent entity that thrived on the fear and suffering of its victims, and as long as there were souls to be taken, the hunger would remain. The future held no solace, only the promise of more suffering. The manor's hunger would persist, an unending cycle of torment. It was a dark force that would continue to haunt the living, a shadow that loomed over the future, waiting to claim its next victim. The hunger would remain, forever unresolved, a dark omen for what was yet to come. Gap 3S. As the years passed, Holloway Manor remained a looming spectre on the horizon, its dark history whispered about in hushed tones. The once grand estate, now a crumbling ruin, stood as a monument to the countless lives it had consumed. Each stone, each piece of rotting wood seemed to hold the memories of those who had perished within its walls. Gap 2S. The townspeople spoke of the manor in fearful reverence, avoiding it at all costs, yet feeling its presence in their very bones. It was said that on certain nights when the moon hung low and the fog rolled in from the moors, you could hear the echoes of the past. Faint cries of anguish, desperate pleas for mercy, and the chilling laughter of the malevolent force that called the manor home. Gap 2S. One such night, a group of curious souls, driven by a need to uncover the truth, ventured into the manor's decaying halls. Armed with modern technology, they sought to capture evidence of the paranormal. But as they stepped over the threshold, they felt the oppressive weight of the manor's dark energy, as if the house itself was awakening from a long slumber. Gap 2S. The air grew colder, their breath visible in the dim light of their cameras. The whispers began, soft at first, then growing louder, a cacophony of voices from beyond the grave. The investigators' equipment malfunctioned, screens flickering, audio devices picking up distorted, otherworldly sounds. Panic set in as they realized they were not alone. Gap 2S. Shadows moved in the corners of their vision, and the temperature plummeted further. One by one, they felt an icy grip on their hearts, a sense of dread that threatened to overwhelm them. The manor was not merely a haunted house, it was a living, breathing entity, feeding off their fear, their very essence. Gap 2S. In a desperate bid to escape, they fled the manor, leaving behind their equipment and any hope of uncovering the truth. The house seemed to laugh as they ran, its hunger momentarily sated. But it would not be long before it called out to another, drawing them into its web of darkness. Gap 2S, Holloway Manor, stood as it always had, a blight on the landscape, a testament to the evil that lurked within. The echoes of the past would never fade, and the house would never rest. It would continue to feed, to consume, to haunt the nightmares of those who dared to remember its name. Gap 2S. And so the cycle continued, an unending loop of horror and despair. The manor's hunger was eternal, and as long as there were souls to be taken, its dark legacy would endure. The echoes of the past were a warning, a reminder that some places are better left forgotten. But the allure of the unknown, the pull of the darkness, would always draw the curious, the brave and the foolish into its grasp. Gap 2S. Holloway Manor waited, patient and insidious, for the next soul to cross its threshold and become another echo in its haunted halls. Gap 3S. As the fog thickened and the moonlight cast eerie shadows, a lone figure approached Holloway Manor. This was no ordinary visitor. This was Clara, returning after years of relentless research and preparation. She had uncovered the manor's dark secrets, and she was determined to end its reign of terror once and for all. Gap 2S. Clad in protective gear and armed with ancient talismans and modern technology, Clara stepped over the threshold, feeling the oppressive energy surge around her. The manor seemed to recognize her, its whispers turning into a deafening roar. Gap 2S. Shadows lunged at her from all directions, but Clara stood firm, chanting incantations she had painstakingly learned. The air crackled with energy as the talismans glowed, pushing back the darkness. Gap 2S, she made her way to the heart of the manor, the epicenter of its malevolent power. There she found a hidden chamber, its walls lined with the remnants of countless souls. In the center, an ancient cursed artifact pulsed with a sinister light. Gap 2S. Clara knew what she had to do. With a final desperate incantation, she shattered the artifact, releasing the trapped souls and breaking the manor's hold on the living. The walls trembled, and a piercing scream echoed through the halls as the dark entity was banished. Gap 2S. Exhausted but triumphant, Clara emerged from the ruins of Holloway Manor. The once malevolent presence had dissipated, leaving behind a hushed silence. The manor, now nothing more than a decaying structure, would trouble the world no more. Gap 2S. Clara's confrontation had ended the cycle of horror and despair, freeing the echoes of the past and ensuring that the manor's dark legacy would finally fade into oblivion. Gap 2S. The townspeople, once fearful and haunted, could now look upon the ruins without dread. Clara had given them back their peace, and the shadows of Holloway Manor would linger no longer. Gap 2S. But Clara knew that the allure of the unknown, the pull of the darkness, would always exist. She remained vigilant, ready to confront whatever new horrors might emerge from the shadows. Her battle was won, but the war against darkness was far from over. Gap 3S. In the weeks following Clara's triumph over Holloway Manor, the town began to transform. The oppressive gloom that once hung over its streets was replaced by a tentative sense of hope. Gap 2S, the townspeople who had lived in fear for so long started to reclaim their lives. Children played in the parks again, and laughter, once a rare sound, echoed through the streets. Gap 2S. The ruins of Holloway Manor stood as a silent testament to the horrors that once plagued the town. Some ventured there out of curiosity, while others avoided it, still haunted by memories. Gap 2ES. Clara, though hailed as a hero, remained a solitary figure. She continued her research, knowing that the forces of darkness were never truly vanquished. The battle at Holloway Manor was a victory, but she understood it was just one of many in an ongoing war. Gap 2S. As the seasons changed, the manor's ruins were gradually reclaimed by nature. Vines crept over the crumbling walls, and wildflowers bloomed where despair once reigned. The land began to heal, mirroring the town's own recovery. Gap 2S. Clara's legacy became a beacon of hope and resilience, a reminder that even the darkest shadows could be overcome. Her stories spread, inspiring others to stand against the unknown and face their fears. Gap 2S, the town of Holloway, once a place of dread, became a symbol of rebirth and renewal. And though Clara's journey had taken her to the brink of darkness, she emerged stronger, her spirit unbroken. Gap 2S. The aftermath of her confrontation with the manor was a testament to the enduring power of courage and determination. The shadows of Holloway Manor had been banished, but Clara's vigilance ensured that any new threats would be met with the same unwavering resolve. Gap 2S. In the quiet moments, as the town settled into its newfound peace, Clara prepared for whatever lay ahead. The darkness might return, but so would she, ready to protect the light. Gap 2S. If you enjoyed this tale, don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories of courage and resilience.